It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
Captain Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have 'em some fun, 'cause I'm a big hunk of crime-fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything can happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Hubba, 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 hubba. Heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody clapping out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm old Alan Autry, and as always, so honored and humbled to have you with us today live from KXEX Studios here in Manchester Center in Fresno, California with my good buddy Matt White. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, it's good to be here.
It's
been a while.
Yeah, it has been too long. How's it feel to be a rising young star in the conservative movement?
Oh, you don't have to do all that, Alan. But
no, seriously.
No, it's always.
You are right. Jerry's back there agreeing, nodding with affirmation with a big ear-to-ear grin. You are.
I appreciate the sentiments. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being here. We're gonna have a little intergenerational fun here today. Rule number 1: when you're 70 years old, don't suck down 3 glazed donuts before you go on air. That sugar high is not good. I brought it in. I don't know why. My apologies. I should be setting a better example. I should have brought in some, some zucchini bread or some, healthy stuff. But I like the donuts. I come in there and Jeremy takes a look at it and goes, I don't do donuts. You come in, you didn't even pick a donut up, did you?
I know you brought a whole dozen donuts in here, and I'm like, man, that's tempting. It's tempting.
I'm on my third one.
You're on your third one.
It.
What?
Don't do it. Don't do it. They find so many maladies that's traced back to sugar. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that 95% of the people January 6th were on sugar?
Wow. Who knew? I didn't even know that's the first time I've heard that statistic.
The only ones that went in the Capitol were the 5 that didn't have sugar.
Oh, man.
The 5%. That's a horrible segue, but give me your thoughts. It's January 6th. First, in a moment, we get the important stuff. But the left is bound and determined to make this day, to quote, live in infamy. Kamala Harris went as far as to say, there's where you were when Kennedy was shot or whatever. I forget what she said, but she gave 9/11, where you were and this and that. And you'll remember where you were. I don't remember where I was January 6th. And I don't agree with that knucklehead stuff that these people did going into the Capitol and doing all that silly stuff. They should get punished for it. But for us to remember it in such a, almost a religious fervor up there with Easter and Christmas, January 6th, you say them in the same breath. What do you think about that?
I just think it's an overplayed card, and from that day on, we know it was going to be used as political fuel to pretty much say, hey, this is what conservatives are, this is what Republicans are, and the fact that we still have political prisoners in our country that nobody seems to be talking about. They're still in prison with no crimes to their name, and it's just being overplayed as political fuel, and that's what I kind of see it as. It's just, to continue to gaslight the American people, and it's CNN and CNBC and all these other networks are using it just for gaslighting purposes and to pretty much disenfranchise the right and try to split us up and make us, I guess, less effective in the political sphere.
Yeah, I shake my head. And like I said, I have to always preface when I say something like this with a disclaimer saying, listen, I don't in any way, shape, or form condone the action. I condone the protest. There was a lot of fishy stuff, a lot of things to bring concern to that election. The COVID thing, the drop by, a lot of stuff that was done differently. To look at that and scrutinize that and have a few questions, that's legitimate. If it happened to the Democratic Party and they lost an election like that, I'd say, hey, Hillary Clinton went out and said, do not concede if you lose Joe Biden under any circumstances because the Russians were collude. Well, you had an investigation. You found that the Russians didn't collude with Donald Trump in 2016. But to get up there and equate a crazy guy in a Viking outfit and a 72-year-old grandmother taking a selfie inside the Capitol and compare them with Osama bin Laden and the attack of 9/11. To quote a great politician, come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do they have such a low estimation of the intelligence of American people outside of there's probably some out there that legitimately believe that's a valid comparison. The people that went into the Capitol, the crazy guy in the Viking suit, the guy that had feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, wrong. Yeah, you went into the Capitol, you need to do some time, man. I mean, I'm not going to defend you for that. But there's some out there that genuinely believe that was just as bad as those towers coming down in 9/11.
you say, oh, Alan, no. Hey, they're out there. And then there's the degrees of that. Okay, well, okay, I'm not saying it's that, but it's in the same category. No, it's not.
Well,
it's not. And I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. What was more like that were these riots of 2020 when you.
You mean that those were peaceful protests?
Yes,
right?
the so-called peaceful.
We haven't heard
23
anything.
cops shot. David Dorn shot dead. A police precinct burnt down. Now that's violence. I mean, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but they're throwing this around all over January 6th as if we should stop everything we're doing and just somberly remember this day, lest it never happen again.
Yep, they want us to remember this day, but they want us to hate 4th of July. They want us to hate anything that is,
that is
Christmas. They want to take Christ out of Christmas. They want to attack anything that is semblance of, a true American culture, what our country was founded on, and those values. And this is just another attack and smear on the American people because these people don't like us. They like to come out and say, we care about the American people. I saw an interview with Nancy Pelosi last week. They stopped her and said, oh, what are your thoughts on these different things in terms of the House Speaker and all? And, people were calling her out about representation. Even Wolf Blitzer on CNN was giving her a hard time. She goes, well, I represent the people. We're feeding the people. I represent these people. But do you really? A lot of it is political theater to, oh, we're out here. And honestly, the way that I've seen this past 5 days in Congress, to see them actually having debate and actually voting, I wish we actually took as much time to do our actual elections that they do on voting for the House Speaker. Because it's diligent. We know who is voting, who's partaking, and it's like so deliberate. But when it comes to our national elections, it's like, oh, well, anybody can vote. Anybody can partake as long as the ballot gets counted. So it's just, I think it's like I said, it goes back to the point of they're not letting a crisis go to waste. It was 2 years ago, but they're going to continue to run this for however long they want to. It's just Alinskyite tactics.
But don't you think they mean all politicians? You're going to have this robust debate, which I'm all for. I think there's too little of that, where you go head to head and you discuss an issue, debate if you have to, and if need be, have a heated debate. But when you televise something, how you're being perceived, these politicians need to understand. John Kennedy had a real for some reason, he just had an innate understanding of what the camera saw. Ronald Reagan, he knew that you're communicating all the time, not just when you're saying something. Sometimes that's the least form of communication. Your body language can speak stronger than your words. And optic, that's why you saw him out chopping wood, riding horses. He understood that. John Kennedy, in his debate, knew that camera for some reason, that if you didn't stay still, if you didn't take a deep breath, if you didn't have certain looks on your face, and he knew that camera was going to be on him for his reaction when Nixon was talking. And he was cool as a cucumber. And Nixon, sweating, eyes darting back and forth. I mean, when Kennedy was talking, he looked like he was being interrogated at the, NYPD. And it's ironic because on radio, many, many experts said if you listen to that debate on radio, you'd swear Nixon won. But visually, you saw it.
And that's used in history classes now as an example.
Right. So we know what's going on may be good in the terms of debate. But what we're seeing is, I don't think at this point, I think they've overplayed the hand, they being the Republicans. And you're seeing robust debate look like petty bickering and obstruction of people are ready. They're like starving dogs in a meat house telling Republicans, look, you ran on fixing the broken border, bringing crime down, stopping this crazy spending, becoming energy independent, scrutinizing a Ukraine war and knowing where the money goes. We don't mind supporting democracy, but is it really going there to support democracy? And you had this agenda that the Republicans said, hey, we're going to get in office. And how many times have you heard this? Day one, we're going to implement this. We're going to go after and stop this horrible Biden agenda. Well, on day one, they're vote number 14. They can't even get a speaker elected. Your take on that. Guillermo had some, his position on it initially, I just didn't agree with any of it. But I thought about it some more, and he had some good points, as you brought up today. But I guess the question is this, Steve. Can you play this hand that they're playing, which I agree has a lot of merit? Show this debate. Show that it's not just going to be lockstep, not just a party full of puppets being led and a sheep, lined up just like the Democrats. Pelosi says jump. Every Democrat says how high. Pelosi says crap. All Republicans says what color. Boom, boom. They're ready. Do you think, though, the Republicans have played this a little too far? Give me your take on it.
I don't think it's been played at all. And I know it goes back to, you say, the optics of it and, the robust debate that we have seen. And we're at a point in our country where, yes, I would love I think the idealistic is we would love to go to the politics of respect. But when you have a system that doesn't deserve the respect, this is what you get. And I think the 20 people that stood up yesterday, now it's 7. Now we have some detractors. I think Chip Roy was talking about a deal. There's
13 have flipped over to McCarthy?
I believe so. 13 have flipped. So it's getting closer. It looks like more or so, but I don't see any. I think now it has to be 217. It's just the majority of voting members. But it goes back to a system that is people don't feel represent them anymore. And what we're seeing this hard line stand. And in terms of it, and you look at the numbers, you're like, okay, obviously we have 200 Republicans that are voting together, but nobody ever talks about what's going on behind the scene in these closed door meetings, the political ramifications for if you oppose somebody like McCarthy. It's almost like you said, I think yesterday, you talked about Nancy Pelosi. She rules with an iron fist.
She rules out of fear.
Yeah, she rules out of fear.
They freely admit that. I was watching Anderson Cooper the other night, and he says they yearned. They were almost in mourning that Pelosi was going to move on, not be speaker, because she ruled out of fear, and they got so much done with that fear that you took the spine out of every Democratic congressman. You were able to rip the spine out of them and just make them be the sheep that you wanted them to be, and they yearned for that. They thought that was good.
Yep, and I think people now, and I know you look at it, it's the minority, but the people that are standing up, the people that are the Lauren Boebert, the Matt Gaetz, these are the new breath of the Republican Party that they want to so far push down and get rid of. That's the reason why we have anti-Trump sentiment, because the people that are siding with McCarthy in terms of his leadership ability are people that want things to go back to the status quo. They want things to go back to normal. This will end. Kevin McCarthy gets elected speaker. And then there's really it's just going to kind of go back to normal. People want to go back to where America's involved in foreign conflicts. And we want to continue to be the policemen of the world. And a lot of the issues that they are saying they want to get done aren't going to get done in the first place. So there's so many issues that we want to be like, we got to solve this, got to solve this, got to solve this. But again, we don't have the executive branch and we don't have the Senate right now. So even with that, the person that's going to reside in that is going to need to be somebody that's really going to want to go after, again, I think you mentioned it yesterday, the Hunter Biden investigation.
Sure.
Somebody that's going to hammer into it.
Democrats want that.
But not just do the optics of it, but actually go in and dig in and see how they've used, these different intelligence agencies to go after regular everyday Americans and really get after the issues. And time again, we've seen Kevin McCarthy run the fine line. And as Matt Gaetz, quoting him, he says he's putting his finger in the air, seeing whatever's politically savvy for the time and going to vote because he flips and flops. And people are like, why don't we get a guy like Jim Jordan who's
Okay, let me ask you this. Is it possible to compromise with the other party, whether you're Democrat or Republican, and compromise on the issue and not be called a flip-flopper?
It just depends on it, because when you go,
Reagan,
elected,
all these people evoke Reagan and they evoke John Kennedy. Well, not John Kennedy anymore; it's more Ted Kennedy on the left. But he was called the Great Compromiser. His deal was, if I can get 60% of what I want, I'm 40% away from my full goal. So I'm going to get my 60% now. Come back in 2 years or whatever. And he also knew he was just passing through, that the conservative principles of limited government, strong national defense, non-burdensome taxation for individuals, families, and corporations were timeless, good principles to build a strong country. And he knew he was just embodying those for the moment he was president. So that was the thing he was asking people to embrace, not him, his personality. And so it made sense. Can I get it 60% down here? And I may have to give up something here. He was a deal maker. But today's climate, without a doubt, he would be called a flip-flopper. And would he really have a future in the Republican Party? And I think it goes for the Democrats as well. I think the Democratic Party wants to get rid of Joe Manchin as bad as the Republicans want to get rid of him, because he saved America. Remember, Joe Manchin saved America on the one bill?
Exactly.
And then he signed off on the other one. Now he's sending the country down in flames into socialism. And so he's sitting in the middle, and that's a very difficult place for a politician to be, because you really don't have enough people slapping you on the back, because you are not a sheep. And if you're not a sheep in this case, you're going to get slaughtered. Usually it's the other way around. The sheep are protected by the party. You could lie, steal, do whatever you wanted to, molest people, but if you're a Democrat, they're going to defend you. It doesn't count.
Yep.
You stay the sheep. You stay what you're supposed to. You get out and you declare some independence. We're not going to defend you on anyway. By the way, we're going to have some people digging up some more stuff on you. And so I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you generally. I mean, this had to be done, that debate up on that speech that Chip Roy gave. Right then, I'm thinking, you ever seen movies where it was a great movie and you had a great ending and you're inspired? Then it goes on for another 20 minutes. And you're left going, it's a great movie, but remember when this happened, when he was up on the hill looking over the ocean, tears streaming down? And I thought, that's when they should have ended the movie. They should have ended this movie, made their statement. They got McCarthy's attention. They said, look, you try to go, you try to lean too far on the left on here because you have a history on them. We are reluctantly coming on board here, but we're going to hold you accountable. We got the vote. We got 20 people that are not in love with you. All right. So, we'll go there. And that's just my point, Matt.
And I think it goes to the point where you're saying is, okay, yeah, we should have, you could say, but if you look at history, and we always say it, what does history do? It repeats itself, right? And I know I wanted to tell you this before the show, but I waited. So these are just some of the historical times that ballots have gone past the first ballot. We have the 16th Congress, 22 ballots. So we're going to be 13, looks like today. In 1859 to 1861, it took 44 ballots. It gets more than this. And then we had 63 ballots in the 31st Congress. And then in the most of all time.
For Speaker?
Yep, for Speaker of the House.
What did they say? It's the first time in 100 years they've had to do that.
Well, it's the first in 100 years that it's happened where it's gone more than so many ballots, a couple ballots. So it's been going more and more. But then the one that predated the Civil War, which is the most of all time, it took 133 ballots.
And you understand.
Two and a half months. Yeah, of course, with the sentiment.
But it wasn't televised.
Yeah, it wasn't televised. It probably took weeks and weeks and weeks.
And nobody knew but them.
Yep, exactly. But the fact that...
If they would have televised, people would have said, all right, two countries, one south, one north. You guys can't work together. Forget about it.
Yep, and we wouldn't be sitting here without, again, seeing the robust debate that we have. But I think we're really at a turning point in our country.
Okay, let me ask you this. I don't mean to, but because you had a good point once more. The great speech of A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson, when Cruz asked him, want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Can the country handle robust debate watching it? You want robust debate? You can't handle robust debate.
I think so.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Go ahead.
I wish we saw this.
I agree with you.
Every single time a bill came across the desk. And I think that's what people generally want.
C-SPAN's ratings would go up.
Oh, 100%. Because people want to see somebody that's fighting for them. We hear it from politicians all the time. I'm going to D.C. to fight for you. And what we saw this week with the 200 Republicans, many of those Republicans are looking at their political futures ahead of the American people. They're looking at what's the path of least resistance. And since our founding, it's always been a small group of people that said, screw you. We're gonna side. We're gonna put our hands under our legs, and we're gonna sit here and not budge. And I think that's what inspires people to go out and say, hey, this is somebody I can get out and support, because they might be in the minority, but it's so much better being in the minority than going with the majority that's going to go and pass the status quo. And honestly, it's a win for the American people that it's taken this long, because nothing's happening. No spending is going on.
I've been all up for doing a study and working hard to find, a more durable substance on the Titanic that is iceberg proof. But while the ship's going down, I don't think that's the time to sit on the deck and discuss long-term solutions. You got to get people in the lifeboats because the ship's going down. And my point is, how long do you play this hand? Because there's the perception that, hey, 1 million people come across the border in the last couple of months and we don't even know who they are. Even Biden has said, "There's Houston, we got a problem. Border cities, we got a problem." He's going down there. And I think chalk up perception number one victory, Biden. I mean, those Democrats will never miss an opportunity to take political advantage. He's over there going, see, they can't even pick a speaker. This is like the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, MAGA Republicans, all in the same room trying to figure out, the right hand from their left hand. They can't even pick a speaker. I'm going to go to the border. I'm going to figure this thing out. He said it the other day. I'm going to use my executive privilege, executive powers, signed executive orders, and strengthen the border. And, there's a time where you can say, okay, the point's been made. I think it's been made. Now you got to do damage control. How do you've sent the message about robust debate is good. But here's the thing. A lot of Americans don't process it that way. Okay, they said, a lot of people are going, okay, you beat each other to death over there. You had an in-family fight. It wasn't the Hatfields and McCoys. It was the McCoys against the McCoys. You're in there beating the crap out of each other. McCarthy's there is bleeding. Matt Gaetz is bleeding. Everybody's bleeding. How do you get the people now to believe you when you say, okay, we're on the same page now? Remember that agenda we used to get elected? That we're going to go on day one? We were going to start working on the border. On day one, we were going to start attacking inflation. On day one, we were going to open up inquiries and investigations on Fauci, on the laptop, all of that stuff. On day one, if you elect me. How do you win them back? Because on day one, they didn't do it. On day one, they didn't do any of that. Now, you could say, I agree. I know what you're saying. I'm with you on this. But I know the American people, they're going to work trying to say, how can I save more money to buy a carton of eggs that just doubled in price? And they're going, and they're hearing all of this stuff, and they're going, yeah, but it's robust debate. America in the long run is going to be good by this. Well, they're saying, okay, long run, I need relief now.
But
I need relief now.
We've seen this play out time and time again. They're going to go into session, and anything that the Republicans did propose, the most that Republicans are going to be able to do in this session is to go and invest. They're going to get everything turned down in the Senate. They're not going to get
they could affect, Matt.
They
some of
could,
that spending, the spending in the infrastructure bill, they have to, in order to allocate that.
Yeah.
So, all this money's earmarked to go to these NGOs. It's all a big payback scheme. And if the Republicans didn't have the majority, they wouldn't be able to scrutinize it, really, because they wouldn't have the committee chairmanships there. They can go in and with the power of the purse, which I hate that phrase, by the way, power of the purse. You got to find that some other name for that. But they have a lot they can do to disrupt and stop this horrible, destructive Biden agenda. So if they get it together and they can vote as a block on this stuff. But my question is, substantively, what do you do? What comes to mind to me is you better do some big event with Matt Gaetz there. You got your big 20 there. You're on the Capitol steps as a group, not a lone little press conference with McCarthy out there doing it himself or whatever. Or you come in and you get together and you come with a contract with America again saying, okay, I know what you saw. Parrot what you just said. Explain to the folks this was robust debate. Get used to it. Because ultimately, this is good for America. I know what you saw, but let me show you what you're getting out of this now. We're in lockstep on securing that border. We're in lockstep on creating a crime bill to make the streets of your city safe. Chicago, we're coming to the rescue. Nobody's done it. We're coming, even if it means the National Guard. My question, you give a suggestion of what the party could do once it looks like McCarthy's going to get it, that you can do some damage control because there has been damage to the cause.
And honestly, it's And you said you want to have that lockstep. I don't think we're going to see that lockstep. I think the battle for the party has just begun. I think it's already begun. But this is.
But you have to have lockstep on securing the border.
I don't think those issues really come into play. I think all of the people that have opposed McCarthy. The reason is they don't trust him.
What? Wait a minute. The border doesn't.
The reason why they oppose McCarthy is they don't trust him. One.
Listen, you're not getting what I'm asking you. I'm talking about the people. Sometimes we can get so deep into this. Who gives a rat's behind what Matt Gaetz thinks about McCarthy or McCarthy about Matt Gaetz? I could give a rat's behind, and so would 90% of the American people. How do they get the American people back on their side that elected them on their day one litany of promises that they didn't do on day one? We're looking at day 6, what have you.
And I'd love there to be 100 more.
And you got, but you'd be 100 more and not have the border being fixed. How many people got to get raped? How many kids got to be sold in human trafficking?
We don't even need like the comprehensive immigration reform.
Who's talking comprehensive? Secure the freaking border.
That's the buzzword that we use.
No, you're still talking like you don't have a Republican majority that could come up forward with a bill if they got in lockstep on that.
But let's be realistic. The Democrats, if we had something go through the House of reform, and really honestly, when it comes to immigration in this country, just following our laws would be a first step in that. And then when they talk about all this reform, they're talking about, it's all these, we're going to do this, we're going to stop it, because it's gotten to a point where it's so bad. But the Democrats are, and the thing is, the
Republicans said they were going to do that. That's why elect us, and we will secure the border.
I know, and that's just one of the issues. But we also have to be realistic that we don't hold the executive. Yeah, but we're now saying that we're going to take them at their word when we have somebody like.
No, it says we keep your word by being a disruptor, even though it's going to it's going to fail on a vote. Bring it for the people to see.
Yeah.
Let them see the roll call. Buying into what you said. Show this process. Show the sausage being made. Broadcast a roll call vote on common sense border security. Could include the wall, the fentanyl. Because again, I respect your intellect tremendously and your heart and everything. But this zero-sum game stuff, that we have to wait until we get all of America, or at least the vast majority, agreeing with us ideology-wise. And that's what some people would say they're hearing from you right now. Forget about it. Let's just keep fighting. Let's keep debating as if that has an end. What does victory look like here for you? If you keep doing it, you keep challenging McCarthy, and you keep showing that he's a member of the swamp, which he is. He's a company guy. There's a lot of reasons not to like him. But where does this end? And you start saying, okay, these promises that we made you, otherwise you're just like the lying people on the Democratic Party that lied to the people. We're just like them unless we get to work on those promises. And if you couldn't deliver, when I ran for mayor, I told people flat out, look, I'm not going to promise you things I don't have the power to deliver. There's a lot of stuff that the state controls that I need council approval. I can tell you I'm going to present a new general plan that puts resources in and then affordably out, revitalize downtown. But I'm not going to sit there, I'm going to do this. I don't have the power. I can say I'm going to do my best to get the council to work with me and vote on the plan. And you had my other candidates going, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I'm saying, why do you tell the people that? You don't have the power to do that. Level with them. All they want is your effort. Say, listen, this is what I have. I have the power to do this. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. But on this, I'm going to need your help because I don't have the power. You're going to have to work on your councilman, to do this. So when you run for office and all these Republicans running on this is what we're going to do, you can count. Then when you get in office, well, we don't really have the power because the Democrats are in there. So you know what? We're just going to keep slugging each other. And we're going to make robust debate the big issue. And if you get on board with the robust debate and watch it and say, wow, look at that American principle being brought back to us. Well, you can't feed your family. Well, you're scared to go outside and go to the movie theater because they're putting criminals in jail with no bail. All that stuff. And we're going, look at us debate robustly. The American tradition. That ain't going to feed the bulldog.
And the thing is, I think you're giving a lot more credit to Republicans, and I think it goes back to it. It goes back to the people that I think you're giving. I'd like to think that they're going to follow through on their promises, and we look back at there is those problems that are facing Americans every single day, and the people that have opposed even McCarthy in this, that's still the top of the issue, and they still want to follow through. What the people that are fighting, and I hope what a lot of the concessions do is, and what we've seen with Chip Roy and trying to limit the power of the speaker, because this, again, it is the third line to the president of the United States in terms of worst case scenario if things happen. We don't know where Biden's at right now. Who knows? The next speaker is going to be a very important decision, and to bring everybody together when you have the 20, we'll see what the concessions are, but I think that's looking at that. I think is going to be super important. One of the
do we know what concessions that he has given?
I know. I want to see. I haven't seen an update before the show, but I wanted to see kind of where a lot of these concessions, because I know one of them was to vacate the speaker.
Yeah, with 5 votes or 1 vote.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it used to be where a member of Congress could do that, but they changed it, and Nancy Pelosi put this in place so that nobody could really oppose her at any cost. And Kevin McCarthy wanted that to be part of the rules and appropriations for when he became speaker. So there's no opposition to it, and I think. The reason I was a little, when you look at Kevin McCarthy, he's like, I earned this job. He's moving into the office. That's for me. It's like that's who I want to bring.
When you say
together.
Stuff like that, though, that's what gets people really riled up. The other day we were talking. I don't know how much you agree with this. There's a Guillermo and I were discussing it. There is a palpable resentment of anything California in Washington, D.C. They believe that, and this is in some instances with some Democrats, certainly with the Republicans, that if you come from California, you've had to play the California game to rise to any level. You can call yourself a conservative Republican, but they don't know Bakersfield from Schmakersfield. You can tell them, hey, no, Bakersfield's not nice, a pocket of conservatism. There's just this California elitist stigma that a lot of people have. So that's number one. Number two, he's lived a political privileged life. Bill Thomas, the head of the Ways and Means Committee, one of the most powerful guys in Washington back in the day, took office. He was. He took Kevin under his wing, taught him everything, put him on the select committees. A lot of people felt he didn't deserve to be in office that short a time and be at that level on these committees. And then he began to schmooze both sides of the aisle. He learned to swim in the swamp. Do the backstroke, like I said, or the side stroke. He could just float in there. And then when he comes out of that, you have people very suspicious in terms of his true conservative credentials. If you believe conservatism and the basic principles, at least, of conservatism is going to be what has to take place if this country is going to ever be remotely as it was before in terms of individual liberties, and the free market system and all of that stuff. So I understand that. Again, it's just how long do you play that hand, or do you say, look, and people are mad at, no, I have to agree with Mayor Giuliani, Matt, down the line on this. Because as mayor, you're close to your decisions. You're right there with the people. There's no hiding. The best government, and it's flawed, at local government, there's tremendous flaw, but it's more effective because it's closest to the people. The further you let that power get away from the people, the less effective it is, unless that power is going to be used to the benefit of the people. But he said, look, I'm mad at both of them. I'm mad at McCarthy, and I'm mad at the 20. He's mad at McCarthy because he should have taken care of this before they went out on the floor.
Well, and it goes to your point. He thought it was taken care of.
Yeah,
coming into this, he was like, we're going to go in. I'm going to start moving in the office. We're going to business as usual. And then you get there and you're like, oh. And for you, I was thinking, man, the movie's over. The movie was over for McCarthy being speaker day one when he didn't get the vote.
Because
I think Jim Jordan would have gotten the 218.
And here's another thing that bothers
100%.
me, that Kevin's got to get his butt in gear and start understanding the party he's representing. You can be off a little bit. The number I heard was they had five people that they had to convince, and they felt they were going to be able to do that. It was probably going to go to a second ballot for sure, and possibly a third. Everybody was kind of comfortable with that. This is what I'm hearing from my sources. They never expected 20. They misread. I don't know if they were trusting a poll, but my common sense kicks in, Matt, and I'm going, did you send your minions out? You should have went to you, get out of your office and go to their office, and you find out where they stand. You don't do it by email. You don't do it by text. You don't send your staffer. You do it the old-fashioned way, and if you would have done that, you would have known you had trouble with 20, not 5.
And I think he did in the months of negotiations going up to this. He had some demands by the Freedom Caucus months ago, and he laughed at them and was like, I'm going to have the votes, because at that point in time, we didn't know we weren't going to have the red wave, because they were saying we're going to win 50-plus seats over. McCarthy's not worried about it. And then we see how the midterms turned out and how the election without the America First messaging, how that went with no Trump, nothing in terms of that, even though people still want to blame Trump on the midterms. He wasn't on the ballot. It is what it is. And we saw what happens. And I think he expected to win a lot more seats, which would have guaranteed him that speed. It wouldn't have mattered if there would have been 20, because it would have been overwhelming.
Yeah, it smells of, to me, you didn't do your homework. You were not savvy enough. There's ways to delay a vote. You didn't have to, unless you're mandated by law at a certain date. I think you can make a motion to delay the vote till you have some people out there you didn't expect to have problems, and you go 24/7. And you don't meet with them as a group. I've seen this happen. Well, we'll just get 3 of the malcontents together. Trust me, that malcontent saying, oh, you see me one of 3? You mean you're not going to meet with me personally? You're not going to have dinner with me? I'm not worth a dinner? Because you don't want to be seen with me? Lauren Boebert goes, I don't want to be seen with her.
But the thing is, these people like Lauren Boebert, who I've been able to meet and interact personally with, and people like Matt Gaetz, who I've met in person, these are people that genuinely care about the American people and are just saying, hey, we're tired of, the status quo. We want to see a change. We need somebody that's going to be out there that is going to be.
Let me ask you this about Matt Gaetz. Human nature versus your commitment to represent the people. When Matt Gaetz got accused of some misbehavior towards women, right? Everybody dropped. He was no longer on Tucker Carlson. He wasn't on Hannity. He was persona non grata. People felt he was going down, and they didn't want any party. And he seems to have recovered from that because they didn't press charges. He said the whole time it was a setup. They were out to get me. It was the establishment Republicans that really threw him in the trash can.
Because he's a threat to the system.
Well, let me just ask you. Yeah. But my question is, after you've had that done to you by your own party, there's got to be some resentment.
Oh, 100%. Did you see the totals of fundraising dollars that were used against America First candidates? It was in the millions.
Yeah, so it stays human, right?
Yeah.
Well, my question is, how much is that playing into his decision to stay a holdout? Going, look, you threw me. I owe you nothing. I'm going to make you squirm. I'm going to make you to shit.
That would be. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this into like a hypothetical. I love it. And I'm actually I'm going to do it where so you're one of the holdouts, but Kevin McCarthy spent $10 million against you with another Republican to oppose you.
Did that happen?
No, that happened. There's a list of names. I can pull up the list of names. There are a lot of
rough.
That when you spent. Especially when you're fighting your own party, you're talking about millions of dollars that were spent to oppose people that had the same messaging as Donald Trump, that were, hey, we're going to put the people first. Because you talked about it a couple days ago. What happened to politicians putting the people of California first? We've seen it. I'm not going to do the same the depiction if you said of what politicians are doing to this state. But, people feel they've been forgotten. And that's why another reason I know Donald Trump's been shooting himself in the foot, the last couple of weeks in terms of some of his different things. But when you look back at 2016, people were tired of, the typical status quo of the politicians. It's like, okay, we're going to drop the niceties. We're going to just say how it is. And the one thing that made him different from every other person is he talked to him because he was good with people. Everybody up there learned their talking points. They were the Kevin McCarthys of the world, and they never could just say, hey, I know you're hurting. I know you can't put food on the table. We're gonna fix this thing, and we're gonna talk directly to the American people. And that's why people voted for Trump, because they're like, wow, finally somebody that's speaking English to me is that. And that is the direction that we see the House going, is with Kevin McCarthy. We're going to get the same.
But has Gates kind of taken that quality of Trump that if you go against me or you hurt me and you fire the first shot, forget about me supporting you? I mean,
I could totally see it, because you break all trust there, and trust goes a long way in
so
DC.
my point with Gates is because I think Gates has a great opportunity here to resurrect some. He's probably safe in his district, but a chance to kind of recapture a position he had before is this firebrand. I think he wrote a book called Firebrand.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
If he comes on board and sees the outcome of this, it's probably going to be McCarthy, and can say, look, I'm not going to be a rubber stamp, but for the cause of this country, and recite what you just said about the robust debate and all that stuff, and now it's time to go to work. I'm going to support him, and as long as he's making decisions that is in the best interest of the American people, I'm on board. If he doesn't, I'm going to be a voice that he hears from. If he can do that, I think, and a lot of politicians that get accused of it, I'm not saying it was his fault to get accused of it, but allegations can do your career. Just the allegation. He has a chance to do something very rare, come back from that allegation. Because misbehavior with young women is something that's really hard to come back from, even when you didn't even do it. But he's got a great opportunity here, because I think guys like Matt Gaetz, now I'm going to get in trouble here, I think you need in the party some of those voices that you have in there going, hey, we're going to hold your feet to the fire, but also know that you have to be like Reagan. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, when to take your money, and don't let it ride on the next race. Leave the racetrack ahead. Go back, find yourself some other horses to back that looks good. Put your money on that horses and win some more. That's how gamblers do win, the ones that do win. The majority don't. So let me ask you here, in the remaining minute, we're gonna take a commercial. We might as well just stay with it. You know that I support DeSantis as our next president. I think he's uniquely qualified. He's proven in Florida that he not only doesn't fold under pressure, he seems to thrive under it, able to keep a clear head, able to bring people together, really take stands against corporate greed, take stands for our children, and real stands, unequivocally make those stands. So I support him. But with Trump, something very unusual has happened. You couldn't have planned it. That I think makes him more of a viable candidate if this scenario unfolds. This man is pretty close to making the claim that he is the most scrutinized, vetted candidate ever to seek office on a national level. You've gone through 2 impeachments. You found you weren't convicted. They've looked into every aspect of your finances with a microscope, your tax returns, your family. They've looked at every single thing. And so far, nothing has stuck. If he can emerge from this, he doesn't go to jail. He doesn't get, where they put some little Mickey Mouse, charge that they're able to make stick. But people look at it and go, hey, that's nothing. Isn't that a very powerful position that he could take, going, look, in this corrupt world, all the accusations towards me, and my enemies looked at all my flaws and said, we can't find any. This man did what he said he did. He is clean. You may not like his tweets, but this is an honest guy. He files honest tax returns. He did not collude with the Russians at all. Isn't that a powerful thing if he's able to emerge?
I agree with that, and I think the fire hasn't been put on DeSantis yet, and we will see that the second that Trump is either he won't have the ability to run, like you said, he's in jail or something along those sides, where there's no chance that Trump will win the election. They will do everything and force him not to do that, and I think that has been one of the things and that I've put my support along Donald Trump. Is he making some of the best decisions as of late? No, I don't think so. I think there's still a lot of time. I think it was too early for him to announce his run. He shot himself a few times in the foot, but that makes you a threat. And that's why I've supported somebody like Trump. And that's why you support people like Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz. What we've seen this past week is when you're a threat to the system, they will do everything to destroy you.
Yeah,
they tried to do it, and they did. They were pretty successful. They got rid of a lot of people in the House of Representatives that held America First messaging, which Kevin McCarthy was behind in terms of funding many of these races to oppose.
Let me tell you something. That aspect of it, that's a huge mistake. That's a huge freaking mistake.
Because you're looking for unity, right? In the party,
right? Well, there's one thing to stay out of it and say, well, I'm not going to endorse anybody. That's tough enough when you have a Republican against a Democrat and the Republican says, I'm not going to endorse the Republican candidate. Okay? That happens. But that's forgivable. To me, to think somebody is such a danger to the country and you're going to give the opposition another vote, whether it be in the Senate or the House, just give them another vote with this far woke left insanity that nobody in the Democratic Party has, outside of Joe Manchin, has the guts to stand up and rebuke, and you're going to spend money to defeat that individual?
You want some of the numbers?
That's a different please, because to me, you lose me on that.
Yeah, Anthony Sabatini, he had $10 to $15 million funded against him in opposition. Mo Brooks, $9 million. Joe Kent, $4 million.
Now this is Republican money?
These are Republican money being funded against people that held America First beliefs, people that were part of the 20. People like Lauren Boebert, the Matt Gaetz, the Freedom Caucus, people that shared those values were funded. Even here in California, David Gillia, who was running here in the Valley, he had $9 million spent against him of Republican money.
Get out of here.
And you're talking about...
Matt, are you serious?
I'm not kidding you. These are stats. These are, when you look at donations and this is all open format stuff. And when you have a person like Kevin McCarthy who's openly funded, that's why you don't have the consensus in the House. That's why.
Well, I'll tell you, that's when donors have to stand up and say, hey, that's a bridge too far.
Well, the donors are the same people that want to keep the status quo going because it's a money making. It's all about the money. That's the way politics works. And as long as you got people that want to keep it going, you're not gonna want to drain the swamp because it's too good. You're getting your retirements, your 401k, everything is good to go, and you're set. Your kids are set, and that's what politics has become. And what I saw from the people that said, "Hey, we're not going to have and elect Kevin McCarthy," is because we want an end. We want something different. And that's why we got Donald Trump, and that's why we saw the 20 fight this week, because they're like, if we're going to drain the swamp, and I'm going to use Matt Gaetz again, he's all, we're not going to put the biggest alligator up there to go somebody that knows the swamp in and out and fundraises.
Again, I hope you understand, listeners and viewers hope you understand. I support the hand that they're playing, okay? And it's not an exact science of when you fold, but you want to fold before you lose all your money. So you can't play the game anymore. As the gambler said, Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold.
I was like trying to remember the song. It's the gambler. Yep.
That's all I'm saying here. I agree with Matt, and you know what we had here? We had a nice little robust debate. So don't think for 1 second that I don't agree with much of what this young rising star I want him to put a party on it. He's a strong conservative Republican, but he would serve everybody well because he's an American first. And he believes he wants a rising tide lifts all boats philosophy, which is the philosophy we should all have. But again, in this fickle world where you have media covering everything, where perception trumps truth, you've got to figure that into equation when you're making your point. When you're trying to sell what you're trying, and it's about salesmanship. The Democrats are trying to sell their ideology. And their deal is, hey, you like free stuff? We got a lot of it. Free college? We got it. You want some free money? No strings attached. You can spend it anywhere you want. We got it. We're the party for you. And you got the other party saying, there's something about earning your money that feeds the soul. To have a job, to have you see your name on a check, or to own a business and sign a check. But that's what's going to make America great. You can't print a bunch of phony money because the money in your pocket gets less and less the more phony money that's in the system. And that's what you're selling. And we have, and I say we, those that believe in not no government, not big government big enough to do its intended job, defend our shores, keep our roads, workable and those sorts of things. Those principles that we all enjoy. I mean, and it's a tough battle to beat free stuff. People would rather, if they thought they had a 5% chance of winning the lottery, they'd spend every penny they had to win that lottery because they can instantly become rich. People do it all the time.
And honestly, I just want to add on to that is,
I'm going to pay for your college, Matt. And you're going, no, I would rather work my way through college.
Well, I'm paying into Social Security that I'll probably never see. So let's be honest.
But go ahead.
No, I was going to say
a little bit with what I'm saying
agree.
there. How can you sell? So you got to know what the camera's seeing, and you got to know your enemy. You got to know how they operate so you can defeat them.
Well, and I think that's something the Republican Party has missed out on. Is an example is when families are hurting, what's the typical conservative response? It's, oh, well, you didn't work hard enough, that's why you're poor. And there is some truth, to the sentiment of not working. You're not going to get everything handed to you. But that's usually the sentiment. Is like, oh, well, you lost out, you didn't do that, good luck. That's typically been the conservative messaging. But then you have a party over here that's going to go in and hone on these grievances of, oh, you're not, well, here's a government check.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that, and I think the messaging going forward, it has to revolve around the stuff that Trump brought to the surface in 2016.
But if you can articulate it properly, it is beatable. People want to earn the money. They want to feel like they're worthy, that they count. And that's we have the winning message. We that believe in those conservative principles. It's just we have to be aware again. What that camera sees, who's up against us, are going to try to paint earning your money as you don't care about the poor people, right? And you're going to say by merit, we have a meritocracy. Oh, you don't believe in a level playing field for minorities and women. That's how they take our stances, twist them, and make the conservative principles look like they have the minorities and the poor people in the crosshairs and don't care about them. But it's the farthest thing from the truth. We want schools that work, that serve that minority kid in Chicago. Don't put the worst teachers in the most challenging schools like the system does. It's like a plantation. You can't, and we say, no, you should have school choice. Yeah, African-American mothers, Hispanic mothers, you should have a choice to take your kid. And they go, no, they have to stay there on that plantation over there in that zip code. And we haven't been able to get past that, which you'd say, man, that's an easy sell. But as you said, you got to go there and sell it. Go into those neighborhood groups. Call a town hall meeting. Reveal the truth. And if you don't,
it all starts local.
And if you make it out alive, that's exactly right. Matt White, thank you so much for being here, buddy. God bless and love you. And I love you all, folks, for listening and tuning in. Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. We're going to be able to do it again on Monday. Until then, just do your best and let God do the rest. And I promise it's going to turn out the way it's supposed to. Love you all. Bye-bye now.